they were trying to get Dave and Chris to film a promo for like the shows they were going to do in Europe. The date was September 10th was one of the shows, and I think that was the show in Copenhagen maybe or something.
Okay.
And Dave's like, 9/11 was one of the worst days of all time. 9/10, not that bad of a day. Anyway, we're doing a comedy show on 9/10.
Welcome to Building Friendships. I'm John Sosis. My guest today, the one and only, straight off tour with Chris Rock, formal Friday man himself, Rick Ingraham. It's not formal Friday. We're shooting on a Saturday, but last night was formal Friday. You showed up in the suit.
It's true. I did. And sometimes if I'm on the earlier show and there's less chance of me not getting, an hour late, then I'll wear the suit.
Oh, so it's very particular. It's not even just Friday.
Yeah, I mean, if I was on a Friday late show and I found out I had an 11 o'clock spot, my mind I'd go, it might be 11:45, and then I'm going to have to stand around in a suit for hours.
That's terrible. That's a nightmare.
I'm a suit big-time show guy. I should have my own green room where I can put the suit on 5 minutes to showtime. It's ridiculous that they don't provide that for me.
If McCartney's not here, is there even a show?
That's really the question.
You're a little bit spoiled.
I mean, people would say that. I would say that I suffered. And
you know what? That's fair. Today, I think we're actually going to finish this today. I've been going at this for a few episodes. Rick is going to do something that Don Barris couldn't do. And with Formal Friday, we had to get him the classiest Lego set, hold up the instructions, let him see what it is. We're going James Bond. James Bond, Aston Martin.
First thing I looked at, I noticed guys on the wrong side of the car, and I went, man, why am I building this British bullshit? Fuck the Queen, by the way, right?
That's an appropriate reaction.
Are we doing sound bites? Are we going to use that as can we make a clip out of that so we get all of England mad?
Yeah, we're going to clip it.
All right,
we're going to clip it. They're going through a rough time. I think now's the time to clip that, put it out.
You should get King Charles on the show.
You think he'll do it?
Dude, that dildo isn't doing anything.
Wait,
man.
But did you see you think with those hands he would be able to do this?
What excited me is I thought these were the instructions, and I thought it was step 1, find the base, step 2, car complete.
Don Barris thought the same thing. He pushed all the pieces together and just put the wheels on both sides of it.
Smart.
Not exactly how it's supposed to go, but I appreciate that he tried. So I don't even know where to start because you had a crazy year. You had would you say it was the best year of your comedy career?
It was definitely the best year of my comedy career. No question about that.
Yeah, so you were here one night, Chris Rock saw you up, and he said, that guy's coming on tour with me.
Well, I lucked out. I got COVID from the Comedy Store.
Wait.
And are we not...
I'm trying to think if you told me this. Is this backstory to him figuring out?
This is what leads up to him seeing me is I got COVID from the Comedy Store one night. And I only say that because me and Taylor Tomlinson and Mark Maron all got COVID the same day. And it was like 3-4 days after we all had shows in the OR. So I was out for like 2 weeks because I got COVID from here. And then I came back, and second night back, I was standing in the parking lot, and Rock showed up, and I assumed he was going to bump me, and asked Emily, and she said, no, he's just hanging out, I guess. And so I was like, oh, okay. And so then I put my fury, my just immediate, I'm going to get screwed somehow, away, and had a good set. And then he came up to me afterwards, and he basically told me he hates crowd work, but he really enjoyed what I did.
Which is, I guess, a compliment in some ways, but then you don't really see the compliment pay off until he brings you on tour. Like that, if you hate crowd work, you're not letting crowd work open up the show for you. And
yeah,
I mean, nothing against Chris Rock, and I don't want to ruin it from happening again, but every single person I spoke to that saw your show was like, the opener was the best, and it was you. Like, the white guy that opened was the best part of the show, which, I mean, I'm sure Chris killed also, but that was my favorite thing to hear every single time somebody reviewed the show.
I think it's racist that I'm always referred to as the white guy.
I think it's not racist enough. I think there needs to be better descriptors about that.
Someone showed me people on Reddit. It's one of these nerd websites where the losers go and they chitter chat about the what have yous. And there was a group of people who just kept referring to me as the white guy. And they really enjoyed the white guy. And then they were like, I would go see the white guy again. And then someone was like, you don't even know what his name is. And they were like, if he came back and advertised it as the white guy from Dave and Chris, we would all go.
So here's the business question. Do you do that? First of all, it would be hilarious if your manager calls up and says, hey, we want to book Rick Ingraham at your club. He's the white guy from Chris Rock's global tour.
People, oh yeah, I never cared enough to look up what his name was.
I mean, that's kind of genius. Like, when you start going out on the road again, that's the move. What was your favorite city, and what city did you fucking hate?
Well, Reno's the grossest place that ever existed.
That checks out.
But one of the best crowds by far. I mean, those trash people are really something when it comes to comedy. It's no holds barred up there.
I hear the same thing about Florida. Do you think that's coincidence, or do you think that's just the way it is?
Florida is literally the rest of America, just 2 drinks drunker. So it's trash people, and a lot of it. Parts of it are pretty nice, but it's just a bunch of extra drunk idiots. The whole state is on spring break mode. So
it sounds about right. I mean, I don't hear great things.
It's like 2:00 in the afternoon. They're mixing their medication and their booze, and by dinner time, everyone's ready to fucking call it in. Florida,
we're calling it in.
We're gonna call it in. It's 9:00.
The state motto. Which place did you love the most? Was there a place that you loved the most that was also actually a great crowd?
Copenhagen was great. All the European crowds were amazing. I don't know if they just assume that what we're saying is funny or if they actually understand the cultural references. We were in Germany, and it was rainy and kind of terrible when we were there, but the crowds were great. They got all my Nazi references. They really took it in stride.
It's funny you say that. Do you think that happens a lot at the store with the crowds? Because I remember when I was doing stand-up, Broadway Comedy Club in Times Square is all tourists. And there was always a crowd of Germans in there. I don't know if they were paid plants or what, but they always got the Holocaust material.
Someone did tell us best not to make any Nazi jokes. I was like, oh yeah, obviously.
Oh no.
But then, you're trying to figure shit out, and I like to make fun of different generations of people.
Yeah.
And when I was talking about boomers, I asked them if they also called it boomers. It was at that moment I realized that above boomers we call it the greatest generation because they killed Nazis.
Oh no.
But you can't call German people who are older than boomers the greatest generation because they are Nazis. And so in my mind, I'm like, oh, fuck, I can't take this any further. And then I'm like, oh, I can definitely take it further. And so I'm like, do we have boomers here? And I went in, I made fun of German boomers and talked about how terrible American boomers are. And I was like, but they got a lot to live up to, because their parents, that's the greatest generation. You guys got I guess you guys called them Nazis, huh? And everyone laughed. And then there was like one really uncomfortable dude in the front, and like you didn't enjoy that reference, and the guy said something. He was like, he basically said I was being hacky or something, and I go, wait, are you German? And he said he was Austrian, and I go, what do you do? And he said, I have a podcast.
Oh, no.
And I go, so you're an Austrian with a podcast. And listen, I got to say, in terms of bad attitudes and Austrians in this country, not a good plan. I'm like, did you get that one? That was another Nazi reference. And then you just really kind of poke the bear. We're not supposed to talk about this. Anyway, some of your grandparents, what they did was, do they teach you guys the Holocaust? Do you guys do history like we do in America?
Is there a situation where you're dealing with bookers in those?
No, it's no holds barred. It's Chris and Dave, so
they know what they're getting.
Yeah, I mean, they can't tell those guys what to do.
Yeah,
and they literally just booked those guys, and then it's up to those guys who they bring. So the booker has he doesn't even have a connection to me. He could complain to Chris and Dave, but I mean, they're just gonna look at him like, "What? You think we give a shit?" But Dave was like, I'm glad you said something, man. I'm going to do my Nazi stuff.
Oh, you losing the crowd for it.
Fair enough.
I look forward to one day hearing his trans-Nazi material in the special.
We were somewhere, I can't even remember where we were now, but they were trying to get Dave and Chris to film a promo for like the shows they were going to do in Europe. And the date was September 10th was one of the shows, and I think that was the show in Copenhagen maybe or something.
Okay.
And Dave's like, 9/11 was one of the worst days of all time. 9/10, not that bad of a day. Anyway, we're doing a comedy show on 9/10, and that guy's just like, you can't. Look at his face just like.
Was it just the most insane tour ever?
Yeah, I mean, it's incredibly
sounds like fun.
It is. Yeah.
And you get out of this dump for a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, the shows were great, and I was treated way better than I deserve. And
see, I would disagree with that. I feel like you've paid your dues and you deserve.
Listen, I deserve nicer than what I could get on my own right now. But I was uncomfortable at some of the hotels I was staying where I'm just like, they're going to find out I don't belong here.
I have my own toilet? What is this?
Someone from housekeeping is going to come in and tell me that I'm supposed to head to the Holiday Inn.
When did you move to LA?
I moved in 2002.
Okay, so you've been here about 21 years now.
Yeah.
And did you come for a particular reason?
I was doing comedy in Kansas City.
Okay.
And I basically had always my plan was once I was old enough to get into the comedy clubs, I was going to move to New York or LA.
So how old were you when you started?
I started doing comedy regularly at a comedy club. I was maybe just before I turned 19. I was in college, freshman year of college.
So you moved to LA, and 2002, what year did you get passed at the store?
Following year, 2003.
Oh shit! So that was a pretty quick turnaround.
I got passed really quick. I was doing my my showcase to try and be a doorman.
Okay.
And Mitzi passed me as a regular.
That's crazy because the few people I've had do episodes so far, they have similar stories where they just get passed randomly, as opposed to busting their ass for years just to never be passed.
Yeah, she came in specific, like when I got to work that day, they were like, Mitzi's coming in tonight. It was like, oh, okay. And then they were like, yeah, she's going to pass Ari tonight. And so that was just the deal. It was like she had been torturing Ari for years. Everyone kept saying he was the new Gary Shandling because she just kept showcasing him and not passing him. So word was she was coming in to pass him. Ari came knowing he was getting passed, allegedly, as long as he didn't fuck up. So yeah, she came in. That was her plan. She passed Ari.
So were you ever a door guy?
I was a door guy then.
Oh, so for that 1 year.
I had started working probably April. It was probably March or April of 2003. I started working there. And then
Okay.
I got passed in September of 2003.
Got it.
So I was a doorman for like 5 months.
Oh shit.
And then
Okay.
I got passed.
Not a bad deal.
And then I was terrible at comedy. And so it was terrible.
Were you doing more written material when you started? I assume that's how you got.
I was an impressionist.
We're gonna get to that. Okay.
And, so I did impressions, and they were like terrible, like knockoff Will Ferrell impressions and shit.
Can you give it a go, or is that
Absolutely
retired?
not.
That's retired.
Yeah,
Because you do. I was gonna say you do the best dice that you can possibly do.
Dice is easy though. You just got to say the dumbest thing you can think of as arrogantly as possible. It's amazing. He's an amazing human being. Like the way his mind works is 100% just if he's with friends, he will do or say anything if he thinks that will get the biggest laugh out of you.
Which you have to respect.
You gotta respect. There's someone
Yeah.
who just doesn't give a fuck. I'm like, oh, this is amazing.
Like what he's doing now on Instagram is hilarious. He
Dude.
just goes up to strangers. Do you want a picture?
We were at an airport and he saw these two lesbians and they were like butch lesbians. We were in New Jersey and he like kept poking me and like pointing at him. And I'm just like, oh man, yeah, no, I see him. And then he's like, keeps walking over closer to him and he's like calling me. I'm just like, oh. So I walk over and Eleanor's with us. And Dice and Eleanor are a couple at this point. And,
Okay.
He basically tells Eleanor, and he like points at him, and she's just like, kind of rolls her eyes, but is in for the game. And so then he starts yelling at Eleanor to get the suitcases, and he's like going on, oh, this dumb woman, you're such a dummy. Why do I even have you here? And she's like playing out, Andrew, I'm sorry, I can't, the suitcase isn't out. What do you want me to do? Do you want me to climb in there? Just stop talking, that's what I want. And then he turns to these two butch lesbians and he goes, chicks, you dudes know what I'm talking about. And I was laughing so hard. And one of the ladies goes, you're horrible. And the other one is like, just awful. And then he was like, what? Come on, guys. And as they just wandered off, then he just looked at me like, how fun is this? I'm like, we're grown. I was 23 years old. He was probably 50.
Oh man, that sounds like the best combination.
It's fun.
Dice and Eleanor on the road as a couple.
For a while, after I did a couple weeks on the road with him, he would just call me, hey, we got to do some chores today. And I'd drive all the way over to his house. And he'd be like, come on, we're going out. And we'd get in he had an Escalade at the time. We'd drive to a Toys R Us. It's used to be on La Cienega.
Okay.
Like all the way down next to the 10. And so we go in there and he's riding bikes around the Toys R Us. And it's all black people working there. And none of them have any idea who he is.
Oh no.
And so he's just like, I need to take the bike for a ride. And the guy's like, yeah, you can't ride the bikes in here. It's a kid's bike. And he's like, yeah, it's for my kid. He's bigger than me.
Oh, Dice.
So there was no point. We didn't buy anything. We just hung out there for like 30 minutes.
He just likes terrorizing people.
And then we left. And he didn't film it. It was just, he used to film all this stuff, but that time he just did it just to go mess with the guys at Toys R Us, I guess.
Now he's just messing with people on the streets of New York, and it's fucking dangerous. He's like playing with fire now. Because first of all, he's covered up, so even as big as he is, he's covered up so you can't tell who he is. And he just goes up to people on the street asking if they want photos.
Excuse me, did you want a photo?
So Dice went to my high school, and he started by where I lived in Sheepshead Bay at Pips. So Pips was the spot at the time. And so when he came here, Eleanor introduced me and was just like, yeah, he grew up in Brooklyn. He went to Madison. So we like, I guess.
You hit it off.
Yeah, we hit it off. So one day, my first real interaction with him alone, he comes into the main room, and I'm there during the day.
Is this a fuck story?
We did fuck,
Okay.
but he came in right after he had his eyes dilated. So he was walking into furniture. He just starts knocking over furniture, and his son is behind him picking it up. And then he talks to me. He's like, "Where are the t-shirts?" He comes in. I don't do it the good dice, but he comes in, starts trying to find the t-shirts in the main room, knocking over all the tables. Then I was like, "What do you need? I'll go grab the t-shirts. I'll go take you there." He's like, "Do you want to take a picture with me?" I was like, "No, I'm good. I'm good, Dice." He goes, "Take a picture." I was like, "No, I'm good." He goes, "We're going to take a picture." Get out your phone. I take out a phone, and he's like, "I'll do it." And then he takes a selfie. And then I'm like, all right, I have a picture with Dice. I'm going to post it, but no one's going to fucking believe that he requested the picture.
No.
It looks like he came into work, and I fucking fanboyed.
begged him.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was.
I was here one night. They were roasting one of the pro wrestlers. This was
Okay.
probably 10 years ago or something. And Buff Bagwell was here. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
So Buff Bagwell was here, and he literally was walking around asking everybody if they wanted to take a picture with him, and almost nobody knew who he was. I think Earl Skakel had to take like 15 pictures with him. You're like, all right, Buff, let's do one more. Where it's like, waitress says, "You want a picture?" And they're like, "I don't know who you are. I'm sorry." One of the creepiest, saddest comedians I ever met. I walked behind this building one night, and he was sitting by himself in the alleyway. And I went, "Oh, it's Gallagher," because I was with a couple people. And I go, "What's up, Gallagher?" And he goes, "Oh, nothing. You guys want to hear a poem I wrote about suicide?" I was like, "You're goddamn right we do, Gallagher."
What is wrong with people here?
A lot.
I mean, when I first got here, and like, I'm happy I could at least, I feel like we're friends, but like
Yeah.
you and Eleanor were the two I was terrified of, because you guys were like the gatekeepers of old school Comedy Store, and I was the guy coming in trying to bring in new school Comedy Store with like microphones that worked and people that know how to hit record. And I was like, oh my God, they're gonna hate me. They're gonna hate the guy who comes in and wants to fix things.
Well, it just, the frustration initially was like, oh my God, this guy thinks the Comedy Store is going to let him do things.
That
And that's a really disappointing thing to see, because you're like, oh man, his soul's going to be crushed by this place.
I think when I started here, I did get warnings, not from people that I particularly trusted, obviously, but I got warnings, and I was just like, the only show that was actually running as a podcast that was somewhat listened to, and when I say somewhat, you guys were getting 10,000 before I even got here. Like, you were in the 8,000, 9,000 range. And then I got here, so your show was the first one we got into. It was the Comedy Store podcast up in the room, and then you had started Rick Ingraham Talks to Strangers, which is the show that we launched with Sarah Tiana when I got here, which is still one of my favorite things that we did. But I was terrified. There were three people I was terrified of for different reasons. It was you, Eleanor, and Whitney. And Whitney I started following during the pandemic, and I was just terrified because she was always covered in blood.
Well, the other thing is she acted like a lunatic on social media
Yes.
for quite some time.
But yeah, you three were the three that I was scared of. And then I got here, and like, you and Eleanor are two of my favorites easily. And Whitney's been great, and Sarah Tiana I love to death. And it's just been, like, you've seen a lot of changing of the guard. How do you compare the Comedy Store now to like pre-pandemic? I would say 2 or 3 years before the pandemic.
Everything's just smaller.
In what way?
Than it was then. It just, pre-pandemic, there was a lot less people canceled. So
Got it.
there was bigger names around, and, comedy wasn't as polarizing as it is now. No, everyone has to have a side and everything. It's just different, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. It seems like during the pandemic, there are a lot of names on the wall that we don't see them anymore.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. It seems like everyone seems to be in agreement that it's nobody that's deeply missed.
Yeah, I mean, you reap what you sow, I guess. Oh.
So you got here, you started doing you were doing impressions. How far in did you realize, oh shit, this crowd work thing is kind of my deal now?
Well, I did impressions, and then the other door guys, my brothers of Comedy Store, pulled me aside and were like, dude, you should never do impressions ever again. Impressions are the dumbest shit of all time. You can't make fun of people off stage and then go on stage and do impressions. And I was like, that makes sense. And so it was like Dave Taylor and Ari Shaffir and Steve Renazizi. They basically convinced me, like, you're way funnier than doing impressions. And I was like, oh, well,
Yeah.
that's probably true. So then I tried to do regular comedy for a few years. And then that's when I went on the road with Paulie, I just had an act. It was like stupid fucking regular bits.
And you didn't like that?
Oh, it was terrible. I hated it. Anytime I had to tell the same jokes,
That was my thing.
I just felt
Like a fraud.
yeah, it was like I was doing a play or something.
That was what I hated about stand-up the most, telling the same jokes over and over, but having to force the audience to believe that it was like a natural conversation, things were coming to you on the spot.
I mean, that's the craft. And
yeah.
if you can accept that you're a sellout as much as anyone with a regular job and just do it, then it's not that big of a deal. But at the time, it felt really like I was young and stupid. So in my mind, I'm like, I'm probably going to be super famous and successful very quickly. And I am not going to need to worry about any of that. And then for some reason, it just didn't pan out.
Do you think, so this is, I guess it's a two-parter. Do you prefer the world of the way stand-up is now with the boom in social media? Or do you prefer how it was back then? And do you think that social media back then, when you were first doing this, would have benefited you more?
I mean, I don't care for social media in the slightest.
I'm shocked.
So
You're so good at it.
it would be awesome if there was none required whatsoever. And the people who thrive based on social media are in no way anyone I respect by any means.
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
it's like when I see people doing that shit, I'm just immediately like, oh, that poor fucking asshole. Making all that money and being successful. And making these fucking videos. And everyone who makes crowd work videos is the fucking worst. And I know I'm better than most people at crowd work. And it's watching people's clips. I feel like Michael Jordan watching people doing dunk videos and being like, dude, you got to see this. Like whenever I see someone's clip, like people will post crowd work clips and it'll be like, where are you from? Milwaukee. Oh man. Yeah, that place sucks. And then I'm watching, I'm like, that's, they not only said that, but then they filmed it and they're like, oh, I got to cut that.
This is the one.
I got to put that on a
Clip
clip.
it. Yeah.
I'm going to release 3 of these today.
Well, that's what's been fascinating to me, and I know we've had conversations. I won't call them debates, but we've had conversations about Matt Rife. Like, for somebody to post a bad clip, and I'm not saying Matt Rifes are bad. I'm saying that they are what they are. But you have, like, my curiosity is that guy who posted the Milwaukee clip. What the fuck was the rest of his set about?
Yeah.
Like, what did he do for the other even 15 minutes?
Well, that's the problem. Is like they might be okay at comedy.
Yeah.
Like there's a possibility that they're an okay comedian, like a reasonable feature most places around America at a show. But most people aren't good at doing crowd work. Like the average comedian is quicker than the average person, but doesn't mean that they're smart enough to come up with things on the spot.
Yeah.
So it's like you're not going to benefit. Well, that's the problem, is that there are people who benefit from doing fucking mediocre crowd work.
But the problem isn't that they benefit from it. The problem is that the ones that do benefit from it make the others think that they can too. And I see that a lot here, where there are a lot of people that are doing crowd work now that were not doing crowd work 2 years ago when I got here. But what always amazed me about your crowd work is you'll pull up like actual educational, historical facts about a place when you're talking to the crowd. They'll give you an answer of where they're from, what they do, and you know stuff about it. Where your Milwaukee example is someone will just stumble and not know what the fuck to do with it. Like what do I reply with? Because I don't know anything about whatever state this is. So that's what I was always impressed with you. And also you have written material that always works in the form of crowd work, which is how I also separate you from people who do crowd work and it's never the same material. That's why I consider you more of a stand-up than an improviser, because you do have material that you can reuse, but it does come out natural enough that nobody knows. Like that.
Fools.
I mean, basically, they're just dumb. No, I mean, that's what always separated you in my mind from other people who did crowd work, is that you can do the same crowd work on multiple shows. To me, that's written comedy. We're winding down. It looks like you've gotten very far. What if you could change one thing about yourself? What would it be?
Tenacity. Have less of it.
I think we're going to wrap it up there.
Yeah.
There's no other question to ask. So, again, I did not finish this. We've been going on 4 episodes trying to finish this.
You got the Stones, man?
Come on, dude. We're getting there, man.
Sad. It's a sad state.
Rick, where can people find you?
You can see me wandering around the streets, Los Angeles, rarely helping the homeless, doing what I can to make sure people know that society is crumbling and there's nothing we can do about it.
I also can you show us how far you got? Okay, so what struggles did you have with that? Because you got further than Don Barris, but by about 3 parts.
Yeah, my problem was interest in the project.
Okay, we're gonna end it there. Thank you, Rick Ingraham. Follow us online, Building Friendship series, Say It Ain't So Sis, and we'll see you next time. I don't know, I should cancel myself.